With 33 days until the midterms, Democrats are panicking. Inflation is out of control, violent crime on the rise everywhere, the border is wide open, and now the Biden administration is spending $300 million on anti-radiation drugs amid Vladimir Putin's nuclear threat. Is that Biden's plan if Vladimir decides to use nukes? I hope he has a better plan than that. And meanwhile, gas prices are high, and they're getting higher by the day. Biden's plan, begging OPEC, and the guy that he called the murderer of Jamal Khashoggi from the pariah nation of Saudi Arabia, that didn't work. His new plan is to bribe Venezuela's murdering dictator thug. That reeks of desperation. His decision to drain our strategic petroleum reserves to salvage a few votes is putting our country's national security at risk. It is not, Joe, a national emergency when Democrats believe they're going to lose midterm elections to tap into those emergency reserves. He's literally draining all of our petroleum reserves. It's now at a 40-year low to artificially increase the world supply in the hopes it'll temporarily lower prices at the pump, all for the midterm elections. But now, Joe Biden, he just doesn't want to talk about any of it. Instead, Joe is rolling out a political Hail Mary. And today, 1 year after firing or suspending dozens of White House staffers for past marijuana use, well, Biden announced a widespread pardon to anybody convicted of marijuana possession on the federal level. And keep in mind, this only involves charges at the federal level. It could include a huge number of drug traffickers and gang members that pled down to simple possession. Naturally, Pennsylvania's trust fund brat in a hoodie that never worked a day in his life, although he pretends to, John Fetterman, he's overjoyed, actually tweeting out, "We did it, Joe, we did it." Anyway, Fetterman doesn't believe that anyone should be in prison, pretty much. He wants to legalize not just marijuana, but other hard drugs. And he wants the taxpayers of Pennsylvania to fund their safe heroin shooting zones. Is that where you want your tax dollars in Pittsburgh going, in Philly going, Bucks County going, other parts of Pennsylvania? He's also called for the prisons to be emptied by at least a third. As lieutenant governor, he actively tried to free multiple violent murderers. That includes one man who was sentenced to life for killing someone with a garden shears in a parking garage, another felon who killed a woman by stabbing her in the chest with a pair of scissors. A new ad from MAGA Inc. details this horrific murder. Take a look.
He brutally murdered his girlfriend's mother with a pair of scissors. Convicted of first-degree murder, John Brookins is serving a life sentence. John Fetterman was the only member of the pardon board to vote for Brookins' release. The only vote. John Fetterman wants ruthless killers, muggers, and rapists back on our streets.
33 days till the midterms. John Fetterman's never been asked a question by the media mob. He's never had to explain why he attempted to get so many convicted murderers freed in prison, why he wants to empty the prisons. After his stroke, he has been mentally unable to debate Dr. Oz, answer any questions from anybody in the media, and his very brief campaign events are few and far between, and for good reason. Take a look.
We already knew that this is going to be a tight race. And we've always been running like this is down 5 points because we know what the stake is at the race here.
Pennsylvania, 33 days. You get to decide if you want a lazy, deadbeat, mentally deficient, radical socialist who lived off mommy and daddy his entire life, didn't pay taxes, but wants to raise yours, pretends to be a blue-collar worker in a hoodie. John Fetterman, there's your guy right there. He might not show up for work because he didn't as mayor. He may be able... Maybe he's not even able to read and write legislation. We don't know. He won't release his medical records, but he'll always be happy to flash his tattoos as if he's the working man. They were paid for by his rich mommy and daddy. And meanwhile, Fetterman frequently skipped out on paying taxes. And you better believe that he supports Biden's new army of IRS agents. They'll be coming right into the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and right into your business and right into your tax return. Now, of course, Fetterman is not the only tax-loving Democrat who avoids paying his own taxes, as Senator Georgia's Raphael Warnock collected an extra $90,000 in a tax-free loophole as a parsonage allowance from a church. And by the way, while the media is busy obsessing over a story involving his Republican challenger, Herschel Walker, allegedly paying for an abortion that he denies, they are ignoring a truly horrific scandal surrounding Warnock. Now, in 2002, as a minister in West Baltimore, Warnock was arrested for obstructing a police investigation into child abuse at his own church's camp. And the charges were later dropped, but according to the Baltimore Sun, he aggressively, repeatedly blocked police from interviewing a camp counselor. One of the troopers stated, quote, "I've never encountered resistance like that at all." Talking about young kids, child abuse. Ultimately, 5 cases of child abuse were brought against the camp's director, who Warnock was apparently trying to protect. One former camper claims that Warnock's camp counselors tossed urine on a 12-year-old boy and made others sleep outside in the cold without a tent or a blanket or any kind of shelter. Now, sadly, this is not the last time Warnock would have trouble with the law. This year, he was ordered by a Superior Court judge to attend mediation after he was accused of neglecting his own children and failing to pay child care expenses, despite amassing a net worth of nearly $1 million. And in 2020, Warnock was also accused of running over his ex-wife's foot with a car during a domestic dispute. And here's what his ex-wife said to police after the incident. You decide.
This man's running for United States Senate, and all he cares about right now is his reputation. I work at the mayor's office, and this is a big problem. I've been trying to be very quiet about the way that he is for the sake of my kids and his reputation. I've tried to keep the way that he acts under wraps for a long time, and today he crossed the line. So that is what is going on here, and he's a great actor. He is phenomenal at putting on a really good show.
Pretty chilling, but the media mob doesn't care at all. They don't care about Warnock's past. They don't care about his radical policies, like defunding the police. That will hurt the people of Georgia. They're just looking for a win. Don't fall for the deception. It is, by the way, October. The term October surprise is there for a reason. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.